Business, a person's occupation, profession, or trade. Connection, a relationship in which a person or idea is linked or associated with something else. Welcome to Business Connection. Each week, our program will offer inspiration to navigate the business world. Information you can use to succeed in any field. And we will help you focus on your goals. Join us now for Business Connection with your host, B.C. Clark.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is B.C. Clark, and this is the Business Connection. My guest today is Cheri Ocander. I always get that wrong. Anyway, Cheri is an existing business owner and a new business owner. So we'll talk about her journey today. Cheri, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, BC. It's nice to be here.
I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you.
I just met Cheri recently, but we have had some good talks. And so Cheri, just share a little bit about your previous business and then this new venture that you're on.
Okay. Thank you. The previous business was something I devised June 1st of '93, a long time ago. And it started with just a concept. It was called the Coffee Cup Lady, and I sold business-to-business advertising and put the ads on coffee cups and put them in restaurants, in the cafes. I covered half of Nebraska, half of Iowa, Northwest Missouri, Northeast Kansas.
Wow.
And the business is now 30 years old. And closing,
Amazing.
I'm shutting it down.
Mm-hmm. And so it's a transition that's happening.
Yes.
You have, and I think we can just safely say that a lot of the reason that you're closing is because of
The last 3 years.
COVID-19
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and all of those things. But, Cheri, I like how you said, the concept was, to just do, because you were marketing. And so Cheri, which is, I had never heard of this before, but Cheri, you bought the coffee cups, or you?
I had a manufacturer that manufactured them.
To have
yes.
the coffee cups
Mhm.
manufactured, and you
Yes.
put your advertisement on it,
Yes.
and then you place them in restaurants.
Yes, in the local
What a
towns.
novel idea!
I know,
What
it's
a novel
crazy.
idea!
Just crazy. I came up with it. I was in Ogallala, and I was sitting at a table, and they had the placemats with the ads on them, and the menus with the ads on them, and white coffee cups sitting on the table. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, they set the food on the placemat, they take the menu right away.
Mm-hmm.
No one can really see that ad.
Right.
But why not put it on the coffee
Coffee
cups? That's as complicated as it was.
But it worked.
It did.
And it just went, half of Nebraska, half of Iowa, Missouri, and where
And
else?
Kansas.
And Kansas.
And I saw my customers once a year, so yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I loved it. I still love it. I've dealt with not only business owners, but their children and their grandchildren.
It just kept going.
So yeah, it's a long time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. What a great idea. I think a lot of times we don't put a lot of emphasis on when you have an idea. Some people say, oh, it's crazy, or oh, it's this. But I would just challenge individuals who have an idea right now, just Cheri, because of what you said, is that I was just sitting there. I saw the placemat, I saw the menu, and the advertising was on those.
Right.
But nothing was on the coffee cup.
No.
And so from that idea that you had and looking at that coffee cup, you designed a business, and for 30 years, it was amazing.
I know.
And so, when you think of that, so your idea doesn't have to sound crazy to other people, but if it's something that you want to explore, don't hesitate, or don't say, and actually I know that there is a workshop right now that's called The Big Idea. So if you have an idea, let's explore that idea. Let's write a mission for that idea. Come up with what is the vision for that idea, and then write down about 3 or 4 things that you'd like to see happen, so describing the idea. Because from that, we can find out if that idea is viable. That wasn't happening back then. But
no, I just went with it.
Yeah.
I just started calling on, I'd go into a town, didn't know a soul, and I'd call in every business, cold call every business, which most people hate doing.
Yeah.
And I can't say I'm a fan, and I didn't know whether it would work or not.
Yeah.
I had no clue. And I had to source manufacturing. I had to source someone to do graphics.
And most people wouldn't have known that.
No.
You know.
I really didn't either. I mean, I just flew by the seat of my you-know-what.
Yep.
And
And everything worked out. But then, I think you did write some things down because, okay, so I need someone to manufacture these coffee cups. I need someone who can put this graphic on the cup. So there were steps that you took. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because planning is so important. When you realize you had an idea, you immediately start writing things down on what needed to happen, or you talk to someone to find out what needed to happen. And that's what I'm saying. There is a process and planning in almost every phase, even in the phase of that idea.
except that I went into, I think it was libraries back then, because that's 30 years ago, to find manufacturers, because there was no real website or Google or
Right,
like 30
that
years
you can
ago.
go
I mean,
to.
that it wasn't that predominant, you know, and so I just had to make a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it did work. So that's why I keep talking about you have to do your work.
Yes.
You can't sit back, and today it's even easier than it was 30 years ago.
so much
30
easier.
years ago, we didn't have the internet. You know
No.
what I mean? We didn't have all the things that we have today. That's what I tell people, you know, okay, you have that idea. What have you done about this idea? You know, let's explore it. Write a vision for the idea. Write a mission, you know, what needs to happen in order to get to that vision. Describe the idea. And some people fall off the ship, you know, because they don't want to do that much work. If you do the work and what you've done stays with you. It even open up doors for you to continue to learn and do some things.
Absolutely, BC, that's so true. And if you're not willing to do the startup work, you're not going to, you shouldn't be running a business,
No.
because being a self-employed small business owner is probably the toughest job on the planet. You don't get to go home at 5 o'clock. You
That's
don't.
right.
I mean,
Forget
and I
that, 9 to 5.
work from my home, so I was never. Sorry, so I was never away from the work. And you have to be willing to work 70, 80 hours a week doing whatever it takes.
To build, because
Yes.
remember, business doesn't happen overnight. I mean, yeah, okay, so we have maybe one or two that hit something, boom, and things happen. However, I would have to tell you, let's be practical. I believe in reality. And I think that if you do the work, you can be just as successful. Making sure you tap all the loose ends, understanding every facet. And even if you don't have the skills to do all the things you need to make those connections so you can outsource certain things. Cheri, 30 years ago, outsourced and found a manufacturer that she outsourced to do the cups for her. Right?
Right.
She couldn't manufacture the cups, but she found someone who could. So doing that work, it's going to save you in the long term. And the thing is that you're developing relationships along the way. We talked at the last interview, we talked about several things that was really key in having a successful business. And one of them was understanding your financials. Number 2 was to network. And not just with the organizations that maybe you deal with, but with every different organization, because there's something you can learn from every time you meet someone different. The third thing was to make sure that you have all the certifications that are available to you. If you are doing some commercial cleaning, if you're in construction, artists, all these things, you can sign up to be a small emerging business. And that's, I think it's mostly minorities for the SEBs, I'm not quite sure. But to get in SAM, the work you're doing, I could see that being a contract. So all these certifications is really key for you to understand and be able to know what's available to you. And then the resources. Getting resources about how, is owning a business a good fit for me? Right? There's resources. You want to find out if owning a business is, some of the things to think about. So is owning a business a good fit? And then how to have a healthy business. These are real topics. These are real workshops. So if you're interested in those, please let us know, because we want your business to be successful. And the only way to do that, as Cheri said, and she has a business that lasted for 30 years, and now she's just transitioning to something new, because she's found another niche that's going to be successful. She started doing it. I've seen some of the pieces that she have, and we're going to have you talk about that. But just to those people out there who have an idea, Cheri, just give them a couple tips.
First of all, believe in yourself, because if you don't believe it, There's no way anyone else is going to. Secondly, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to start it. Don't be afraid to ask questions along the way. Don't be afraid to fail.
Exactly.
You know, and it's a step process. It doesn't all take place at once. Sometimes it's baby steps. Sometimes it's big leaps. But you've got to be strong enough and tough enough to go after it and not let anything stand in your way. In the coffee cup lady business, I was driving 70, 80,000 miles a year. There were days I didn't want to get up and go on the road. There were snowstorms, there was all sorts of things. But it's what you do to make the business successful.
I love that. Yeah, and those are really good. Those are down-home tips. You know, that under the skin tips. I've been there, I've done that, is what you're saying, and that, hey, I know it works. I do believe that people have to put their own work in to make their business successful. It's not up to anyone else but the person who started that business and the people that's part of their team. And so doing your work really, really works. So after 30 years of doing this coffee cup business with the coffee cup lady and advertising and marketing, Cheri's doing a new venture, a new niche. So talk about your new niche. Tell us how you got involved in that.
Oh, this is crazy. I'm always doing something. I have a lot of energy and just never know when to say no, you know. So 3 years ago, I had taken some classes down in Texas for epoxy countertops. Love epoxy, love working with it. And started a business, CL Custom Studio, doing epoxy countertops. The downside, and I don't want to be negative here, but the downside was I had to hire guys to do fabrication and installation. And that was a big challenge. Getting someone to step up to my standards, because my name was on the contract.
Absolutely.
So after 2 years of just being so frustrated, I closed the business. And in the meantime, I'd had a customer in Council Bluff, and she had asked me, I'd done her countertops, and she had asked me if I'd ever worked with cremation ash art. I said, I had no clue. And I kind of dropped it at that point. And then as I was slowly getting ready to close that business, I started thinking about it and researching it, and there's not a lot out there.
No.
And so I have started a new company called Spirit Memories, and I'm doing cremation ash infused art for both humans and pets. And that covers jewelry, it covers globes, it covers pendants, it covers pictures, just so many different things. And in fact, I even made a chess set using the cremains in the chess pieces.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I absolutely love it.
And they're beautiful. I've seen some of the pieces.
Thank you.
Some of the pieces are amazing. I kept saying, what? I thought it was just regular jewelry. Because I know that people are doing that now, putting the ash in to keep those remains as opposed to throwing it in the sea. And I was blown away with some of the pieces that I saw.
Well, and in doing research, there's a company in Texas that does hand-blown glass with the cremation ash for both humans and pets. And they're the only one I could find in the country. And then there are two companies that have the displays in the funeral homes of the pendants and things that you can unscrew and put the ash into.
Oh, I see.
But no company is doing this. I know there are DIYers that do it, you know, for family and friends. But I wanted a company that I can offer the services to, that I can control the quality, and you know,
that's important. And I think the other thing that you have going for you, Cheri, is that you're kind of a proven business owner, that you like quality, you want things to be done right, and it's this way you have kind of control of how that goes. But I think the other thing too is that the compassion you have for the families that you're doing it for as well, and that plays a big part in it. I really think so.
I had to really do some soul searching when I thought about doing this, because I'm dealing with loved ones' remains, whether it's human or pet, because they're both loved, you know. And I'm thinking, can I actually do this?
Yeah.
And I mean, because you know, it's a living human being that was. And then I found out that it takes such a small amount of the ash that I'm not dealing with the whole vase or urn or, you know. And so, yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
And the areas where I do pets versus humans are totally separate. And every speck of that ash is accounted for.
That's amazing.
And if there's anything left over, then I will be sending that back to the family,
the
or
family.
asking them if they want me to scatter it, like at Forest Lawn. They have an open area that you can scatter.
Oh, okay.
So, yes.
That's great. So, Cheri, okay, and from the business standpoint, when you realize, again, that this is a niche, and you must have an eye for that, because the last one was 30 years in business successfully. When you say, you know, I had to do some soul searching because I'm dealing with, you know, human remains and things like that. As a business owner, did you start laying out certain things on how you wanted to, you know, take these in, and because that's all a part of the process, right? Again, planning, okay, and that's what I'm trying to get out there. Planning how this would work, and you came up with all of this before you actually started advertising about it.
I haven't even started advertising yet. I'm just in the setting up the business process. I've been using sand as in my samples because, of course, I don't have cremains, and nor would I be so disrespectful as to make samples out of them. That would be horrible. So I was told that sand replicates cremation ash. And so I've been using the sand, but I measure it. I see what it takes for pieces, you know, and things like that.
So in that business planning, you laid out that, you know, okay, so it takes, you know, whatever I'm, you know, and you have, so what I'm trying to get to is that, you know, in our business planning, a lot of times we leave out so many steps. And so that's why it's really important when you get into the detail of the business plan to help a lender or someone else understand what it is that you're doing, how you plan to get that money back. So I guess that's the marketing piece that you are very good at, because you kind of was living in that field for a long time. How important is it to have a marketing plan in your business?
It's essential. You have to know how to get from point A to point B. I mean, I can make all the samples in the world, and there they said. What do I do with them then? You know, and until I get it out into the public and talk to people about it.
And it's really important to know who your target market is.
Yes.
I think that there's so many people that don't do any of that work ahead of time, and that causes issues, because now you're thinking that all your family should be buying everything from you and all the friends you know. Well, you only have so many of them. You know, when we say target market, it's like you've defined who you want to sell to. I'll take an example. I know there's a yoga studio, and this individual wanted to target women that worked that were professional. That was one of the things that her segments. She wanted them to make between $100,000 to $150,000 a year. She, you know, so she laid out the segment that she wanted to attach in that target market, and so she knew exactly where to market. She knew the areas. She had gotten the areas of those people that made that amount of money, because in that area that she was focused on, this is the things that they do. They do yoga. They are very fit. You understand what I'm saying? So she knew exactly what her target market was. If we take the time and do our work and study our target market, we'll be more successful when we get ready to lay out and do our marketing plan.
Well, and I'm going to add to that don't be afraid of being told no.
Yeah.
I think the number is, it takes 6 no's to get a yes, I believe. I might be off on that.
No, that's.
But take a no as a step.
It is a step.
It's one step closer
and
to
no
getting
is a complete
yes.
sentence.
Yeah.
For all them who don't know it.
And if you're turned off by that first no, then you shouldn't be self-employed.
No, because you're gonna, And I think that, you know, when you do your work, you have to understand, failure doesn't mean that you know, if you failed on this, doesn't mean that you're a failure.
No.
You know, if you don't fail, you'll never learn anything. If everything was perfect, I mean, everything, and you just thought that you could not fail at anything, when you do fail, you're devastated, and it's hard to get back up. So little failures along the way usually comes to be a successful business, because you failed at it, so now I've checked that and I've gone to the next level. every level you get to, there may be a sense of failure, but you don't stop there.
No.
You just correct and move on.
You know, I'll never forget, and I don't know who told me this, but it was before I started the company, the marketing company. Colonel Sanders got 1,000 no's before he got a yes at what, 78, 76, somewhere in that age
76,
bracket.
77,
I mean, 1,000 no's. Most people would run after the first 10.
I'll say, this is not it, I'm not doing this. But I think persistent is a
Right.
great asset for any business owners. Persistence and never giving up.
Right.
If it's something you really believe is what you, and I think it goes back to a couple things, because number one, if you really feel this is your niche and this is your purpose and this is where you should be, working, and this thing is just on your back, like you think of it all the time. You're looking and finding ways. I think go after it, but don't give up
Exactly.
just because a shoe fall off one foot.
Exactly.
You have to keep walking, even with just one shoe. You have to keep going.
Right.
And not only that, but don't allow someone else to destroy your dream.
No.
I always say, keep your daydream, and keep dreaming. Don't let anyone, your family, anyone say, oh, you need to forget that, you're never gonna do that. Don't listen at that kind of talk, because that is talk that is designed because they can't do what they want to do. They don't want you to do what you need to do or what you want to do.
Right.
So you have to really read through a lot of things that people say to you. You have to read through a lot of things that they say about you, behind you. But you have to take none of that and make it anything part of your life, because they're going on with theirs. You glean out whatever you might glean out of that, and you move forward. And you work on whatever things you need to work on. Let the stuff just roll over your head and go behind you. Because when you become the successful person in that business, it's going to be them that'll be standing back looking at you and saying, well, you said you would do this one day. But they won't think about all the negative things they said to stop you. So much for that. I think that you have to be persistent, be strong-willed, and ready to do whatever it is you want to do.
Well, and the fact, and this really put it together for me. I spoke to someone, and they had lost a child, and I told you this story, at 2, and the urn sits in the closet, where I can give them things that are beautiful, that they can enjoy on a daily basis, and that is part of that child. To me, that is what I'm not supposed to do that, but that's what speaks to me.
That's okay. That's the compassion coming out, Cheri. That's why I think this is
really
really
does.
good. I think this is a really good niche for you, and I think that it's going to be very extremely successful.
I'm excited
because you take the care. And the family sees the compassion that you have for what you're doing and how you're going to bless them with this. And I think that people, I can't imagine, but. Just to be able to have pieces that you can wear, pieces that you can, and it's not sitting in a closet somewhere of someone that you really love. It's so beneficial and so advantageous to people healing. Yeah. To me, I look like that. These are healing pieces for people. They can hold this in their hand. They can, you know what I mean? They can feel their ear, and it's in their ear or it's on their wrist, and they can just rub that and get a feeling and be able to grieve within. And be satisfied without.
Right.
I think that's a really, really, really good thing. Yeah. So tell us more. So, so what did you notice different about starting the business this time as opposed to when you started the other business 30 years ago?
Well, the other business 30 years ago, I shot from the hip.
Yep.
I just went out and started calling on people. I had no idea what I was going to say. I didn't know. With this, I'm spent months planning this out, because it's so precious. It's so, I don't have the words right now to use, but it means so much, and it's so serious. It's not like you're taking Play-Doh or whatever it may be. This is
someone.
This is someone that was loved, and it has to be treated with respect, and it has to be given the dignity that it deserves, whether it's human or pets. And so I number one, have wanted to be so respectful in all the steps.
Right.
And again, there's not a lot of places to go to get information. You know, it's yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're doing the right things. You know, you're laying out a business plan. You're coming in and you're getting information. You're talking about it. You're getting the resources lined up. I think that those are all key things that you have to do. I think, and then actually, we'll talk about this later, but setting revenue goals. You know, for each month,
Right.
and then coming up with your 12-month pro forma. Looking at your projections, because again, like you said, this is going to be your full-time work. So you want to see those these things come to true,
Right.
come to fruition. And so, yeah, we'll talk about revenue, what we need to make sure that we're getting in every month. And those are things that are key, you know, understanding all the financials. And you do, because, you know, you've been in business for a long time. A lot of individuals don't. And I think that's what sometimes destroys them. They don't really take the time to understand the financials, which is the most critical piece in a business. But I think that because of your experience and the 30 years that you've been in business with the other one, transitioning now, you have some greater insights, but you have greater resources now than you did 30 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's so much advantage to all the things that you know you want to do. I mean, there's stuff that you can go and find. You can Google.
Right.
You can Google. You can talk to people. You know, you can come to classes, and all these things are available. So I would just urge anyone that is even transitioning. So Cheri, we have the young entrepreneurs. We have encore entrepreneurs. Have you ever heard that term before?
No.
So the encore, which is ENCORE, encore entrepreneur, are those who start businesses after 45, after 50, and 60. Okay?
Yep.
So you are an encore entrepreneur. And here's the thing. You are an existing business owner of 30 years, so you have 30 years behind you of things that you actually made up, thought, brought to fruition, was successful for 30 years, and now you're transitioning from that business onto a new business. So I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
think that you're doing awesome at it. I think you're doing all the right steps. Because like you said, things have changed since 30 years ago and over the past few years even. But you can see light. Whereas 30 years ago, you had no clue.
Oh, I had no clue.
And so I think that that's important, you know, that we can recognize that. What are some of the things that you would tell someone? What would your 30-year-old business owner tell your young business owner?
Quit driving around the corner. Quit going around the block. By that I mean, especially if you're in sales and you're out making cold calls, everyone hates cold calls. I don't care who you are.
I do too.
And so it's so easy to make excuses, meaning driving around the block. Oh, I'll see them tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow. I'll do this. You can't do that because the tomorrows mound up and you're out of business.
Yep.
You know, I don't know how sophisticated that statement was, but it's a fact. Get up, get out, go, work.
Yeah. Keep rolling, keep going.
Yeah.
Don't just stop. And it you know, and let's just say this, it is probably that way, right? But I think that the one thing that we have to always remember is that if this is something we want, we go for it.
That's right.
Cheri, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you bringing in your existing talents and your new talents.
No, thank
and
you.
we'll talk more about that. But thank you so much, Cheri Ocander, and Spiritual Memories.
Spirit memories.
Spirit Memories.
Yes.
Yes. So if you want to know more about Cheri, we'll have her stuff listed on the YouTube, and you'll be able to see who she is. Thanks, Cheri.
Thanks, PC.
Thanks you guys for joining us today. I hope that you learned something that can help you in your business, whether you're just starting out or existing. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.